Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Do you want to maybe put it closer?
It should be color.
Is that good? Just about like that?
Everything sounds just fine.
Okay, let's go.
So, we live?
Yeah.
Awesome. Mr. DeLancie, thank you very much for being here on Celestia Radio tonight.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I'm my little Dashie.
And I'm Purple Tinker.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Good to hear it, sir. How has your trip to BronyCon been?
Oh, it's been pretty amazing. Not just in the actually getting here, which was probably the most unamazing part of it. Just get on a plane and fly across the sky at 700 miles an hour or whatever it is. No, but this is entering a whole new world. It's a great world, and I'm a big fan.
How would you say that this compares to, for example, a comparably sized TrackCon in terms of the atmosphere or just the general dynamics of the thing?
This is the way early Star Trek conventions were. Fan-run Star Trek conventions.
Like before Creation Entertainment, for example.
Yes, and before anyone else, before they became businesses.
Right.
Right. In the same way that Dragon Con is still not, the difference between Dragon Con and Comic Con is huge. And while Dragon Con is just as crazy and what have you, there's a spirit about it that you just don't see at Comic Con.
Because Comic Con has become very dominated by its founders.
It's all about marketing.
Absolutely.
Going on that note for a second, how do you, as an actor who's obviously been on the, panelists, the guest side of everything throughout all the different cons you've probably been to over the years, how exactly does that make you feel like whenever you can see that it's controlled more like by the people who are funding it versus whenever it's a very round, like brand new convention that's still building?
Well, I mean, the panels will ultimately be run by the questions, regardless of who the moderator is. So the questions are fan-driven questions, but the feel of the convention, the feel of the entire event, is very different when it's fan-run and when it's business-run, and this is very much a fan-run convention.
For all that means, good and bad, lots of good.
Lots of good, and and things that people standing in line forever to get autographs or stuff like that, or to get in, or something of that nature is just because they haven't done it enough, and they don't have professional crowd control people coming in and out. But then again, the fans are so excited and so happy to be here, and because it's sort of new that so you're talking to somebody standing in line as opposed to talking to somebody inside, so it doesn't really make that much difference.
Either way, you have a good time. Now, is there anything in particular that surprised you? Something that going in you wouldn't have thought would have happened, or you wouldn't have thought would have been part of the experience, but was?
I was prepared for this to be a much more strictly brony, meaning 20-year-old guys. And I'm finding that it's much more diverse than that. And I really love the notion that parents are here with their kids, that women are here with their boyfriends, that older people, younger people. It's much, much, much more diverse than what I thought it was going to be.
Okay, so with diversity in mind, where exactly do you, how has your personal emotion and belief of what bronies are exactly has changed from whenever you first heard of the concept, the idea, what you learned, read on the internet, heard about from your colleagues and whatever, to now, evolved?
Well, the first thing that I heard about bronies from sort of supposedly an official source was that...
Could you tell us who that is?
Well, yeah, the Fox News thing.
Oh.
Very official, very official.
But you have to understand, I'm a believer that Fox News has done more to destroy the truth in America than any other single organization.
I'm not saying that I agree with you, but I agree with you.
And so I know fandom to the extent that I know Star Trek. And I knew what they were saying was wrong. And it was wrong to say it. And I also knew it had to be wrong. So from that point of view, from that starting point, it's all been a positive sort of discovery. And if truth be told, I guess I'm allowing myself to be surprised, but the fact is that I'm not surprised. People are, for the most part, good, and people really want nice things to happen. And the fact that we have allowed ourselves to be living in a world of fear and fear-mongering,
In this post 9/11 world.
in this post 9/11 world, is and the fact that nobody, at least politically, seems to want to be able to get along with each other. I think that this is a movement that's going to do, in its small way and maybe in a very big way, change all of that.
Are you saying that you believe that bronies may be the beginning of something larger?
I think it's the beginning of a new, call it the age of Aquarius, which is where I grew up in.
Yes, of course. Cool. Okay,
A
so,
lot of pointing going on.
I was just trying to get my Capri Sun here. I'm really thirsty.
could I interrupt this for just a quick second? Guys, all of you are sitting way over there. Why don't you all kind of squeeze in here a little bit and be a little bit more, we're all in this room. We could make a little circle prophecy thing.
And you can ask questions as far as I'm concerned.
I got one question.
Shamrock, can you sit, please?
Prior to your involvement in BronyCon and in BronyCon the documentary, well, let's face it, when you were interviewed, you basically said that your involvement in the show at first was, well, you went into a booth and you recorded one day and that was that. But you've been spending a lot of time working with Lauren and working with Tara, and why don't you share, what has that experience been like? You probably have spent more time dealing with Lauren on this documentary than you ever did on the show.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, once I decided that that a documentary would be something that would be appreciated and maybe needed or wanted, I then went for my first introduction was with Tara because we were both at an event and we spoke. And then I really wanted to get to the person who created all of this, because for me, the person who created all of this was experiencing, in a way, sort of the same feelings that Roddenberry had experienced. And that is that when Roddenberry did his show the first year, he had great hopes. The second year, there was a lot of problems that were happening in the show, so much so that he left and wasn't even involved in the third year. And then the show died. And the show did not come back because of guys going, gotta have that wagon train to the stars back again, It was women who brought the show back. Which was, and I thought, well, there's so many parallels here. The creator parallel of, working on the show and then leaving the show, and then all of a sudden the show being sort of meant for a particular group and then being kind of taken over by another group, and then that group creating all of the spin that was necessary to get the show back on air and just making it, just a quantum jump in the thing. So that's why we had our first dinner, and she expressed sort of a bittersweet feeling about, my gosh, here it is. I left the show and all of this is happening. And I said, well, you know what? Just know that you were a Star Trek fan, Lauren. Well, just know that Roddenberry went through the same thing, and it all will come around. It will all come around. So hopefully you will want to do the documentary and you'll want to come to BronyCon. And she thought about it, and the next day or so later wrote me or called me, I can't remember, and said, yeah, I'm on.
I'd like to ask you then, you know, obviously you, the production staff, like everyone involved with the show knows about Bronies. It may have started as a very underground, very unknown thing, you know, that started across the internet. But these days there is no secret at all that Bronies exist. We're everywhere.
Well, if I might say, in your world, that's true. And now in my world, that's true. But the vast majority of the people I've talked to, that is not true. That comes as a, well, no, who are they? What does that mean? I've never heard of this. Or sort of inklings of having kind of, oh, yes, there was an article in the Washington Post a couple of months ago. You know, I mean, that type of stuff. They're not quite sure. What's that?
Like a curiosity.
Yeah, but no real understanding.
It's not something you usually see walking down the mall or something. You just don't see that.
Speak up a little bit.
It's just not something you usually see outside of the internet these days. I mean, you walk through the mall, you don't see people walking around with Brony shirts. So
right, and you know what? Even if they did walk around with a Brony shirt, I wouldn't even, you know, like you're wearing a shirt over there. I have no idea what that shirt means, and it could have, you know. Oh, now I'm beginning to see it a little bit. It's
The Big Bang Theory.
It's the Big Bang Theory, but it's also hand.
Yeah, it's for rock, paper, scissors, Little Spock.
Okay, so the biggest problem that, or what, I mean, this is the way in which the big bump is. Why are, 20-year-old guys watching a show made for 8-year-old girls? That, and then everybody, the whole stained glass window falls apart in most people's minds at that point. They go, oh my God. And then you have to step through that issue. You have to step through that issue to walk into the world. And once you step through that issue, and we had the father who was there with his son, that was going, oh, like that. Well, he was forced to step through the issue by walking around, and finally he went, this is great. I said, yeah, it is. It's great. It's not as creepy, weirdo as you think it is. Okay.
There's just that huge,
You got it. What's that?
There's just a huge initial stigma to it that a lot of people never get past. Like my friends, for example, I show them the intro and they're done.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Right.
That's why I replaced all the intros with an Alex S song. So
I'd like to finish that question actually. Where I was going with that, apologize about the misconception there, but thank you for that explanation. What I actually wanted to ask is, knowing that you guys know about us, in your own personal experiences, how has that affected the evolution of the show overall from an insider perspective, like on your personal note?
The evolution of which show?
My Little Pony, throughout its, like, the building of characters and all that, has knowing that Bronies are there, obviously all the fan canon they create for themselves, has that affected the staff of the My Little Pony show?
Well, that I can't address.
Okay.
I've only done 2 episodes, I think. So the first time I did was, I'm very clear as to what my audience is when I act or write or produce a show. But I didn't know that there was this audience. But then again, I didn't know what even the old-time My Little Pony show audience was. So I take it almost entirely from the script. And the script seemed to not have any dumbed down issues. It wasn't anything that was like, I sort of cringed that I had to say and stuff like that. The second time I did it, I by that time I knew within just, I'd only known for about a week or so that there was this, like, wait a minute, there's this whole world out there that this shows. So I began to kind of in a general way focus it towards that. I recognized that the character, one of the, there's often times when you do an acting job, you have to determine not only what is wanted, which is usually what's written, but also there's a super thing there, which is what is needed. And it's possible that one of the reasons that my character has become sort of disproportionately popular in only 2 readings of it, is that what was needed was sort of this kind of naughtiness. Okay?
Which you do so well.
Which I do so well. And so by the time I did the second one, I was aware that there was the possibility that naughtiness was what was needed. So I began to work it in a little bit more.
Okay. Mr. DeLancie, would you mind taking some questions from our listeners? There's a lot of people tuned in right now. Would that be possible?
Sure, of course. There's a couple on here. The biggest question that I'm seeing on here, just absolute most, whether if you happen to know this yet, is when the documentary will be available and how much it will be.
People want to buy this thing.
People are very interested.
You know what? I can't. You should talk to Mike Brockoff, who is really the nuts and bolts behind the documentary. I can tell in terms of the price. I can tell you in terms of of doing it is when we first started out on Kickstarter, it was a very, very modest budget, which meant that it was going to be a very modest shoot, which means all things are scaled down, and therefore the amount of production time that you're giving it, you have an editor on that for a month, and then 2 weeks after that you sweeten the show and it's ready to go. Well, what we've decided to do is that we've decided to take all of that extra money, which was really quite extraordinary, and put it into the show. So instead of having 2 cameras here, we have 6 cameras here. Well, 6 cameras is a lot to edit. It's a tremendous amount to edit. Hundreds of hours of editing. So I know while Mike doesn't want to work on this forever, he keeps on saying, well, it's 2 months. Well, all right, 3, maybe 4 months. I keep on saying, we'll be very lucky if we can get this out by first of the year. But so I'm trying to give it, not having people's expectations be too high. But I also want to make sure that if we don't get certain things, then we go to other places. I mean, we went to Israel, we're going to Germany, we're going to Italy, to England. There might be some interviews that we will need in Seattle. We're going to make sure that we do a good job, and on top of it, this is where Mike is beginning to go, whoa, it's not that big of a budget, is that I would like to animate some things.
Oh.
So, and we all know that takes a real long time. So
I'm sure you can easily hire some animators from the community, and they probably animate.
Well, and the point is that we do want to hire some animators, and it's because we don't know them anywhere. We don't have the skill that Lauren has. We want to make sure that these are people who Lauren would say, yes, these are fan animators who are really essentially professionals.
So you want to really give people a chance to get a bit of a break?
A bit of a break?
Yeah. you know, people that haven't necessarily
Oh, I see
made
what
it.
you're saying. Yes, and that goes with the music as well. So all of these things take time. Yeah, they just take time, and I'd rather use that time than just push something out. Because believe me, this will be the first documentary, but it will not be the last. You know, I think what's happening here is very interesting, and I think that there will be someone else who comes along and has, you know, perhaps a different take and a different, whatever. And so this is just the first of a number of sorties.
So you're trying to make sure that that first take is a good one.
I want to make sure it's a good one, that it represents the thing that, I mean, I had so many emails from people saying, will I be able to show this to my parents? Okay? And then the question is that when something really works, Star Trek works this way, this show works this way. It works on three different levels. The kid watches it, the parents watch it, the grandparents watch it. Well, now with Star Trek, that really is the case, okay? That really is the case, because it's been around for 50, 60 years or whatever it is. My Little Pony, or Friendship is Magic, was intended for 8-year-olds, watched by 20-year-olds, wondered by 60-year-olds, like, what is this about? You know, so we're just at the beginning of that, and I want to make sure that the documentary is entertaining and insightful to everyone, for everyone.
I actually have a question about the sort of interpersonal aspect of you attending this convention. How do I put this? Well, one thing that makes this community unique is the synergy between the show staff and the community. For example, Tara alone, she tweets all the time back and forth with her fans. She communicates with them. Andrea does the same, Nicole, Peter New, and Tara alone keeps pulling new people in. She pulled in Lauren. So there's obviously a strong dynamic going on there between the fans and the staff. And I want to know, how did that affect the way that fans interacted with you at this convention as compared to, say, at a Star Trek con? Was there a difference that you felt, or did you feel there was, you know, that there was something that defined the way that Bronies interact with you, or, you know, in your experience watching them with Lauren and Tara, as opposed to how they would interact with you at a Star Trek con?
Bronies are much more media savvy, which is making me more media savvy. I never started tweeting until recently. I'm not sure if it's something that I will continue to do, or actually even enjoy. I mean, I like it. I'm just not sure, because I tend to be more solitary. Just as a person, I tend to be that way. But one of the things in which I discovered very early on is that, you know, I made a remark here and there at a thing, and the next thing I knew, I was reading it online, and I was going, oh my God. And then I was reading a critique of what I said, which were maybe about 60 people remarking on what I said. I mean, this is like listening to reading literary criticism. I mean, who are these people? They're like a bunch of PhDs writing about what I just said. You know, I think if you listen to the tone in which he used the thing, and you know, I don't know, but you know, he changed the tense on that, which would have made, you know, it's very possible that he was, you know, talking in terms of double entendres. And I go, oh my God, who are these people? So it was, all of that was great fun, and it's a really educated group, you know. So.
Another question that we have from IRC, one of the anonymous users on here asked, what, if any, was your favorite line to record as Discord?
Oh, no. I have no idea.
Celestia Radio Sweeper.
Yeah.
Something I actually saw in there is some people were hoping you could give us a Discord line. Could you say something like, you're listening to Celestia Radio as Discord?
You mean I am now listening to Celestia Radio as Discord?
Something confusing.
Something like the Celestia Radio is being listened to by Discord.
Yeah.
There you have it. Now, you know what? That's the other thing is that I'm in a world of voice actors who are in fact different than the world that I come from. I mean, I just sat down at dinner and there were 3 of them there, and they must have pulled out 25 voices in the course of and they were all competing with with their different voices and what have you. And it's hilarious to listen to, but it's just not where I come from. It's not the world that I come from. They're very skilled at that, and it's just not what I want.
Believe it or not, you actually answered like 4 different piracy questions already.
That's because I'm cute.
Yes. You knew the questions before they were asked.
That's right.
I actually have a question for you. You were talking earlier before the interview about wanting to listen to some of the music. What of the music community have you heard, and has there anything that stood out to you particularly?
Well, I was sent some thing about Discord.
Discord. I'm coming after you.
Yeah. That's right. Which was great. I thought it was really good. I thought it was terrific.
There was this gentleman I understand that went by you earlier today with the speakers.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And you're a Brony.
And then I started listening to other things, and I've been getting more and more suggestions along the way, and I've listened to a lot of music, and I've said this before, which is that the Star Trek community started out. Your ticket to enter the tent was science fiction, was Star Trek, which meant it broke immediately into science and into fiction. The ticket to enter the tent is My Little Pony or Friendship is Magic, but it immediately breaks into illustration or art, animation, and music, which I really liked. That isn't to say I like everything I see or anything like that. And like anything in this world, 10% it's only 10% of most anything is really good. But I just love the fact that all of that energy is being put into something creative. And I was just, I talked to a guy who said, a submariner who did one of the interviews for us. He was saying, when I was a kid, I was in the chorus, choir, and I played the clarinet. I then moved to Texas, and I went into the military, and for 20 years I've been essentially a technician in the military. And this show made me go, I want to play, the clarinet again. I want to, so I started writing, and then I found somebody who does music, and and so all of that came back, and I went, great, this is fabulous.
Would you say that bronies in general produce more fan material, per person hour?
Per capita.
Per capita.
Well, I'm pretty amazed at how much they do produce. I can't tell you whether it's more or less and what have you, but I am pretty amazed. It feels really prolific.
It really does.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask you, whenever you mentioned earlier that whenever you first did the Discord voice, you didn't really know what you were getting into until later on, whenever it started coming together for you. And now you're doing this documentary and basically showing the world what bronies are through your own eyes. What exactly was that defining moment that you ran into that said to you, I have to be a part of this?
Well, as I said before, the defining moment was when I was sent a very unpleasant
A notification about what had happened on Fox?
just sent, a couple of the things that were said, and I just went, well, they're just...
And that was really just what...
Yeah, that was it. I mean, I was not... I didn't want... When Mike suggested, let's do a documentary, I said, no, it's not my world. I would feel like I'm interloping. It would feel like I'm sort of, jumping in. It's not my party. I mean, so I don't feel comfortable about it. But after I listened to that, I just went, these people need, maybe a documentary would be good, because these people will have an opportunity to give themselves some space by having they will have the microphone. We're giving you the microphone. We're filming you, but you essentially have the microphone, and you get to talk.
Or like the 6 microphones.
That's 6 microphones, and you get to tell us who you are and what your aspirations are, and warts and all, by the way, which is good. I mean, it's not going to just be some big, what's it called?
Candy coated?
Yeah, love fest type thing. I mean, but we're not also going around trying to. It's going to be it's going to be there. It's going to be there.
That's what it is. That said, are you going to show, both sides? Every fandom, everything has its good and bad attributes to it. Are you going to be going into the balance side of it a little bit, or are you more focusing on spinning it as positively as possible?
I'm against spin, which is what these news stations have become. They're not news; they're spin.
You're very right.
So I'm not looking to come in and give it a spin. I'm looking to say, this is what I saw. This is what I saw. Now you could say to me, oh, well, John, you didn't open the door over there, and if you opened that door over there, you would have seen a really horrible sight. But I didn't open the door over there. I just didn't. I didn't even know there was a door over there. And I don't know particularly what we're going to get, but there isn't anything that I've seen at all. But you have to understand, I've been in fandom for a long time. When I would do when I would do phoners, the reporters would always go, well, all those Star Trek fans, they're all fanatics, aren't they? I go, well, no, they're not, right? Oh, no, they're all fanatics. See, I go, well, let me explain something to you. At the end of a bad Star Trek episode, they do not go into the middle of a town and break all the windows and torch the cars. Which, interestingly enough, sports fans do when they lose the game, and then they do it again when they win the game. So I have never understood. I mean, if that's not fanatical.
And oddly enough, the sports world is more accepted to a lot of people than the Star Trek.
That, you got it. So I said, if you want to go and find fanatics, I would suggest you go and do that. We just had a terrible incident in Los Angeles last year at the opening baseball game, where some guy from San Francisco was wearing his team's jersey, and they beat him up so badly that he is essentially in a coma for the rest of his life, and he has 2 little children and stuff like that. That will never happen in the Brony room. That will never happen. Okay? So I don't like it when I hear people denigrate fandom in that respect with this sort of big brush, so as to make themselves feel better. Oh yes, well they are all fanatics, whereas we on the other side are not. I go, well, yeah, right.
Well, a lot was said at the private Q&A this afternoon about, people who criticize bronies are essentially criticizing a community that's based around friendship. They're criticizing a positive-oriented community that, at its very core, is intended to make people happier, to spread friendship and love and tolerance and all these good things. And that by opposing that, what does that say about you? for those who do oppose,
Right, right.
say bad things about police.
Yeah, or a society which finds that to be creepy and unacceptable. Yeah, okay.
I actually got two more.
And you know
here,
what?
and,
Oh my God, it's really late.
and
Two more, and that's
two
it.
more. Yeah, I cut off questions a while ago. One of them that I get a lot of is who is your favorite pony?
Well, am I?
Sort of.
Partially.
You're
Partially.
It is pony.
The head of
He has the head of a pony.
What did you say?
It does have a
It is head of a pony and a body of all sorts of things. So,
Well, I'm just going to leave it with, it goes without saying who my favorite puppy is.
The second question I got here is, what do you like most about the show? Not the community, but the actual show.
Oh, I remember when I first had a kid. I said, now what do you like about the show? And he went, well, it's awesome. I go, yeah, okay, fine. But I mean, like, what do you like about it? Well, it's awesome. I said, okay, thank you very much. I know now what he means. The writing, the animation, the voicing, the music, they all really work. They're really good. Yeah, some of the shows are better than others. I haven't watched, I think I've watched like 10 shows, 12 shows. That's what I like about it.
I know exactly what you mean.
And I mostly like that you like it. Okay? Yeah, you have to understand, I might have been in Star Trek. Well, I watched very few of Star Trek. I watched very few shows. I do shows because I like how other people react to it. You know, up until the advent of movies, actors for the last 2,000, 3,000 years never saw themselves. So you would perform, and then you would go around and go, you know, sometimes sort of pathetically, perhaps. What did you think? Did you like the show? Well, I love that interaction. You know, what did you think? Did you like the show? So for me, it means more to me that somebody would say to me, oh, I really liked it, like that, than it is for me to have seen it. I like your reaction to it.
You're gazing into the mirror that is the audience.
Right. And it is not unlike taking your makeup off and your costume and going to the stage door, and there would be, you know, half a dozen people going, oh, we just saw the show tonight and we really like this part, what have you. Well, the irony is that for shows now, because I've been doing them for so long, people, that metaphor of the stage door might be for a show I did 30 years ago. I go, well, I'm sorry, I don't really remember that show, but, you know, but, so anyway.
Oh, man.
I think that's
That's the bad movies. Yeah.
I was just about to ask, may I ask one more short question?
Okay, one more short question.
Okay, I wanted to just ask real fast. Knowing that you're actually part of the show itself, Lauren's part of the show, Tara's part of the show, and all of them are, you know, interactive with the community and everything. If it's possible to say so, has Hasbro said that they're going to be having any sort of interaction itself with the documentary that's making? If it's possible to say so.
No.
They haven't said so, or you can't say so?
I don't, they haven't said so. We haven't asked.
Fair enough.
It's not, they've done a wonderful thing by creating the platform. But this is a documentary about fans. That's what I'm so happy about.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time, really, honestly. Thank you all, Celestia Radio, for listening. If you can actually hit our listener count, not 3 or 4 times in this interview. Just
And a lot
this will be going around the world. This is actually being beamed out to interstellar space right now.
On behalf of Gray Mare and Equestria Daily and Celestia Radio and the My Little Dasher Show, and of course all of our fans, BronyCon, and everyone that you've interacted with that you're here for right now, we want to thank you very much for your time and your interview and your everything.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Genuine pleasure.
And now I am going